Hi everyone, my name is Justin Odisho, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to create this animated Instagram like counter in Adobe After Effects. So to begin, we're actually starting in Photoshop. I have this template of an Instagram like that I found on Google PNGs, and I just chopped it up into 3 separate parts for me to save as PNGs and use in After Effects. So you could use your own custom shape tools and build it exactly how you want, or you could kind of chop it up like I did. But once we have these 3 pieces, that's less important. Let's go into Adobe After Effects, and we're going to open a new composition. I'll just use 1920 by 1080 standard HD size, and for the duration, I will make it just 10 seconds long. That's all I think I'll need to work with. And I've saved all those different shapes that we've created in Photoshop and dragged them into the project media bin, so I can just click and drag them into our project, drop them in the center there. So let me rearrange them. And we have our pieces that we're going to animate with the text. So I'm going to make them a little bit smaller so I have some room to work. I'll hold Shift to constrain proportions, and we can get started. So first, let's create a new text layer by going to Layer, New Text, and I will just type out 0 for now. Actually, let's start with 1. We can always start with 1 like. With the text highlighted, I can open the character panel and choose a font and size. So I'm going to use Roboto for my Instagram font, and I'm going to lower the size down until it fits proportionally next to the heart and everything else. So I'm going to actually move around some of these. I'll press V to activate my move tool, and I will move around this heart layer a little bit to the left, arrange our text, and kind of center everything so that it looks nice and proportional. Once we've got our basic building blocks laid out, we can begin to create our animations needed to make the counter go up. So I'm going to head over to the Effects and Presets panel and search for one called Slider in the Expression Controls folder. I'll drag that onto my text layer, and if I click the drop down, I should see it in the Effects section. I'll also drop down the Text section, and I want to add a keyframe under the source text, but I'm going to hold Option and click it so that we can add an expression keyframe. So once you see that pop up, let's drop down the slider control as well so we can actually see the keyframe icon for the slider. I'll click this little swirly pick whip icon and drag it onto the slider so that it is controlled by that slider. So now if I'm at 0, it'll be at 0. I can move it and adjust it how we want. So let's start at the beginning, add a keyframe at 0 or 1, whatever you want. So I guess I'll do 1, and then go over however many seconds you want. So I'll just go over 5 seconds and make it go all the way up to 10,000. So 10,000 likes. Now you see this text is going to get bigger than our original box, and there's some issues with decimal places and rounding. So there's a few animation steps that we need to take to clean this up. So first, I'm going to add to our expression a little bit to clean up that rounding error. I'll highlight this expression and attach on the end of it .value.to fixed, make sure it's a capital F, parentheses, and I will do 0 so there's no decimal spots. So now you can see it just rounds it off to a clean number, and it goes all the way up to 10,000. But the next thing we need to do is animate those 2 other pieces of the background so that they stretch out when the text adds decimal places. So we can do that with some anchor and scaling keyframes. I'm going to drop down the transformation options on that rectangle piece that I've made, and starting at the very beginning, we're going to find that first frame where the text expands out a little bit. You can press Command and arrow keys to move over frame by frame. Literally the first frame, we need to expand a little bit. Now under the scale, I'm actually going to unlink the proportions because I want to just expand it horizontally. But one thing I actually want to do is only expand it from the right side. I don't want it to stretch out from the middle like that because we only want to keep making the right side bigger. So what I can do is adjust the anchor point so that it begins on the edge. So I'm going to move the anchor point over, which is this little circular crosshair that we see in the middle. I'm going to move the anchor point so that it's right on the edge of our shape. And then I'll just adjust the position back over to a good starting point so it's in line and center with the little half diamond. And now we can begin adding our keyframes. So I'm going to add a keyframe for the scale, and I'll press Command arrow key, and literally on the first frame we need to do a little bit of expanding. So I'm going to expand out just a little bit, and you see that now that we've adjusted the anchor point to be nice and centered on the edge, we can expand only the right side, saving us some headache and work. So I'm going to expand it a little bit, and then I'm going to move over once again using Command and arrow, and we literally need to expand it again because it's going so fast. I'm going to expand it out a little bit more. Now I'm going to keep going. It's going to stay on the 3 digits for a little bit, but then it's going to go to 4 digits. I'm going to expand again, and then it's going to stay on 4 digits for quite a while until we hit the 10,000 mark, and I'm going to expand it again. But you see what happens when you do this is the keyframes go out gradually, which I suppose you can do, but that's not really as clean as I think we can make it. So let's just highlight all of those keyframes, right click, and toggle hold keyframes. You see them turn into little squares. That just means that the adjustment will not happen gradually. It will only happen as the timeline crosses that point. So now it's adjusting a lot more smoothly. It looks more organic. It's being pushed out by the number. Now the last thing that we can do if we want is make this little half diamond stay centered the whole time. So at each point that we had to adjust the scale of the rectangle, we can adjust the position of the half diamond. So I can actually just kind of trace along the previous keyframes that we just did. I'll click the stopwatch icon on position, move over to each time it expands, and move it over a little bit so it's centered again. Now, just like we did before, we want it to be hold keyframes instead of linear. So I'm going to right click, set them all as hold. And now we have a animating like counter that expands organically as the text is expanding. At this point, if we really want to do one last final step and keep it centered as it expands, we can go through and add keyframes to the whole thing. I'm going to highlight everything, right click, and pre-compose it. That'll kind of nest things together. And in this pre-composition, I can add keyframes just like we did before with the anchor point. So I'll toggle that stopwatch icon, move over, and then each time those keyframes kick in, I will recenter this and just keep the anchor point centered on the middle of that half diamond. It's kind of like resetting a typewriter, but this whole thing we want to highlight, right click, and set them to hold as well, just so it matches up. And now we have a centered, animating, self-expanding Instagram-like animation. So if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like on it below, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my new videos, and go follow me on Instagram at Odisho. It's the best place to reach out to me and actually send me over some likes for generating these fake likes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.